Welcome, everybody. Great to see you, friends, again. I hope that you'll be okay with me calling you friends since we're third episode in? We're becoming buddies now. And last week we had a good chat about what it takes to become a freelancer and how you might think about moving into becoming an agency and the reasons why you might be sticking with one or moving towards the other. And but we had such a long conversation. We're going into part two here. So today we're going to chat a little bit more about that, and we're going to talk about some stuff around what it takes to be efficient and profitable in our businesses, whether we are a freelancer or whether we are moving or already at the agency style. So, as usual, we have Martin and Mike with us today. So, hi, guys, lovely to see you.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Brilliant. So, let's dive right in and talk about what it means to be profitable. So, let's start with the sticky question. Do you feel that you are in a profitable place? I'm gonna dive right in with Martin because I know this is going to be a tricky one for you, and we're here to be real.
Okay. It's a really interesting question. If I look at how much do I spend in cold hard cash on my business versus how much money does my business bring in to me? Yes, I am profitable. I bring in more money than I spend. However, if you then start to factor in the time that I spend on my business and in my business and take that profit and divide it by the number of hours that I spend, am I making enough profit for the hours and the effort that I put in? No, I don't think I am. So as with all of these things, how you define profit is perhaps, a little bit beyond the basic accountancy term. So that's, my initial answer, Jill.
That's really interesting. And so, how would you be able to factor that time in?
In terms of how do I calculate how much time I'm spending on the business, that's a really good one as well, because I think quite often it's easy to underestimate it. I mean, there's the bits of the business that we started off, building websites for argument's sake, doing SEO for argument's sake, those kind of technical aspects of the actual work. And then there's all the other stuff, client acquisition, and of course things like your accountancy, your billing, all the sorts of stuff that are about running a business as opposed to doing specifically web design and associated services. And I know I'm guilty of underestimating the amount of time that I spend on all of those aspects together. And the easiest way for me to kind of think, okay, well, how much time am I spending working is to look at how much free time I have, and it's not nearly as much as I'd hoped it would be. When I started off, and it hasn't really gone down that much. So when I started out, which is quite a few years ago now, I thought to myself, well, if I've got standing operating procedures and things like that, when I do repeatable processes, then every time I repeat them, I'll get faster. And therefore, I'll spend less time working. And the reality is that is true, but there are so many changes, in the nature of the industry we have, tech changes and all the rest of it, that not as much is as repeatable as I'd hoped it would be. And because of the character I am, and I know I'm far from being alone in this, when I've saved a bit of time, I don't actually then go, okay, brilliant, I'll stop work now. I head off and start to do other things and research. And also I have a little bit of, shiny object syndrome, I confess. And there are certain platforms out there that maybe we shouldn't mention, because as soon as we do, people will be going, oh, I want a bit of that. So AppSumo, it's very easy to get distracted, from what's key. So I think from a business point of view, it's very important to be clear about what you're offering and how you're going to offer it. and I'm exceptionally good at advising clients and helping them to do that. And maybe not quite so good at doing it for myself.
Interesting. That's interesting. Mike, what let me ask you, do you let me put what I asked Martin a different way, a slightly different way. Do you feel that you make enough of a salary from your business to live on? So I know you guys both have wonderful partners who are also working. If you were standalone, Mike, would you be able to do that?
Yes, is the answer to that. And that's only
Good news.
probably happened after about year 3 of the business, and I'm now in year 9. So I think that the pandemic aside, which had just different impacts on different businesses, some web design businesses did really well from it and others just didn't. It was just a very strange period where people were, pivoting and doing all kinds of things. I very much look at this as being weakly organized, and I don't mean that I am this most amazingly organized person, because I'm not. But what I do is I do discipline myself between what Martin was talking about, which is the shiny object syndrome, and what I call time to learn. So I think there's time to learn within the aspect of something that you may have taken on that you don't know 100% about. So it might be that you've got a very decent knowledge of something that you've said yes to. That's one type of learning. And then there's the, shall I go and have a look at, maybe look at some LinkedIn posts today and see what some of the influencers are doing, what people are putting out there, looking to see if that fits into any service that I provide. So organizational time means that I organize my time to learn, and the rest of the time I say, am I making money from the time that I'm spending doing this now? So as far as this is concerned, this is not a money-making exercise. This is us helping and giving back to our community. And so this will be side-tracked, if you like, in my schedule as being a period of time where we help others because we got help when we started. So by giving that back to other people in new business, that really helps us and helps them. So we feel good about doing that because we got the same kind of help. So time to learn, and thinking about almost the end of the day saying, okay, what money have I made today? It might be that you're working on a web design project and that actually isn't really tangible, but actually you're saying, well, how far did I get that project moving forward? So if you've got a timeline, a 6 to 8 week timeline for a web design project, and maybe you've got 3 on the go, you know that all the time the clock's ticking, and you've said that this is the time that it's going to be done by, that the minute you go over that time, you're then into time deficit, and then you're into profit deficit, because you're not then working on something new, you're not getting new deposits from clients, and you want to get the task completed. So we always say, and I always say to my clients, it's as much my interest to have this project completed in the time that we said it would be, as it is for you to have that new website or that project completed as well. So profit, the answer to your question is that, yeah, very much so. But I keep a very, very close tab on all the financial side that includes the shiny object syndrome, which sometimes it feels a bit like a lottery, doesn't it? Where you might go and buy something and then you think, oh, this isn't great. I'm not really using it. The great thing with some of these offers is that you can get them refunded. But I think that I was talking to one of our colleagues the other day, and it just seems that every new thing that seems to be on the market, she's buying, and then and it's almost going into a pot as to whether she's going to use it in the future. And that's fine for some people. but that still comes off your bottom line.
Yeah.
And if you're not using it and you're
Yeah.
not turning that into a serviceable product, then that's money that's not really profit first, is it?
Well, that's an interesting reference. So that's a reference to the Profit First book, which, if you guys out there haven't read it, it's a great book, really worth reading. And I think I do a lot of reading or audio listening to books when I go for a walk. And some of the things that have really influenced me have been around the systems and processes that you can put in place for your business. And you kind of touched on that, because how can you estimate how long something's going to take if you don't understand or have the system? And of course, Martin talked about the difficulty in a changing environment of how do you deal with that. And I mean, I still feel like that there are some areas that are kind of never going to change, or once you find something that works, you can stay in it for a while. And things like your sales process, your marketing process, your onboarding process, your offboarding process, and we should have a process for that. And then what happens in between the meat of it when we're maybe doing our projects, whether they're a web site or a graphics project, whatever your particular main thing is. In terms of that, how do you, Martin, then work out what becomes profitable for you then?
I think you're right in terms of some of the systems don't change. For example, I mean, the accounting and billing system that I have is the same one that I've always had. The onboarding process is broadly similar. Again, I mean, there are different softwares that come along, that talk about streamlining this, but the underlying process is pretty much the same each time. I think the estimation, the whole point of things like estimating is making sure you've got something that verifies either in the middle or at the end of your process, was my estimate correct? Do I need to actually tweak it for the next time I did it? And then the more you do, obviously, the more you actually get more accurate in estimating. So I think that's a fundamental thing that can definitely help.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
It's a great answer. So I'm going to run off that.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, yeah, so that comes to the point about systems. No system is ever perfect. And there is something about revisiting a system and constantly improving it. So one of the books that I've read, oh, what's it called? I can't remember. We'll put it in the show notes once I remember it, but it's something about work the system. That's it there. And that's sort of about, as a business owner, your job is to continually improve your systems, and actually those things will improve your profitability. And a lot of us started in this industry because we had a skill, a technical skill perhaps, and we've got right in and we roll our sleeves off and we get right into it. And but there is that different viewpoint that actually sometimes it pays to step back from your business and look at it in terms of systems. Mike, I know that you've done a bit of thinking around this recently, haven't you?
Yeah, well, the thing is, you still get caught out.
Yeah.
And you can when that phone call comes in or the contact form is completed and you call somebody back, you're then you're either talking to them over the phone about what they're looking for, or you're arranging a time where you can go through your question and answer process. What then happens is that you're then caught as somebody in the business between really wanting to impress somebody, because that's what we do. We like to get our websites completed and go, look what we did for you, amazing. It's a win-win situation and everybody's happy, and getting carried away a little bit with that, with your own skill set. So if somebody presents to you a project, there's a difference between the presentation of a project that's, we've got a website, and actually we want a brand new website. So with a vanilla brand new website, you're into loads of questions and around their business and talking about their business and maybe running discovery calls, that sort of thing. If you're then taking on somebody else's website and someone else's work, it sounds like an easier thing, but actually it's not. And before you know it, you have gone down a rabbit hole of not knowing how somebody's coded something, what was going on in their heads when they did it, whether it was 5 or 6 different people doing the coding, and the client has an expectation of, but can you fix it? How do you price that up? And I think that is a really, really difficult one. So,
yeah,
in terms of being the authorities, the definitive authorities on how you do that, I think that is only comes through step-by-step negotiating process, which is one, not being so desperate that you want the work that you'll say yes to anything. And I've seen people that do that and then they fail. And knowing that you may, if you don't have your own skill set yourself, that you can go and get the resource that you need to be able to fulfill that requirement. And, it doesn't matter what, in the 9 odd years that I've been in the business, I would say that there is still times when you get presented with something and you go, what on earth is this? And so that's one of your red flags, because it's not a red flag from a client, it's your own red flag tapping you on the shoulder and going, can you do it? And so you then need to have a process that brings that in to sort of almost like a process for auditing a website, to be able to work out whether it's something you can do or not. So it doesn't matter whether WordPress, you think WordPress, what could possibly be different about picking up a WordPress site?
Oh my goodness,
you could have a Bootstrap site, a Tailwind CSS site, an SCSS site, a site that's been built with any one of the page builders that you may or may not have been exposed to over the period of time. And then you've got all customization and custom fields and gravity forms and contact form 7s and whatever. So I know that's a longer answer, but that is
a longer answer. And I'm gonna draw a line, and thank you for that though, because do you know what, as we've been talking, I just realized there is more and more richness that we can drill into as time goes on. And I think we could do a whole episode on what it means to take on somebody else's work, couldn't we? So I think we'll put that in the list, will we? So this has been a bit of a whirlwind, and we've touched on some various things. Hopefully you've seen yourself somewhere in these, and we've looked at what it means to try and become more profitable as businesses, whether we're in the freelancer or the more down the agency. We didn't really talk too much about using those processes to maybe outsource some work, but that again, we can come back and talk about that again. There's so much around that. But for now, is there any final words any closing words, shall we say, that you would like to share?
I think
final.
Yeah. I think one of the things, obviously as you're listening to this, some of it you'll identify with, maybe all of us, maybe just one of us. But one of the things we want to be able to do is draw out some lessons and to be there as a point of help as well. So just reiterate, what we're always saying, please do get involved so that we can make sure that we've learned some lessons in our years of business, that we're communicating some of the answers of those to you, because there's not one right way of doing this, but there are some absolutely definitely wrong ways of doing it. So get in touch and let's explore that and help each other.
Yeah. Mike, any brief closers?
Yeah, I would just say, just have that little thing on your shoulder, that devil on your shoulder that's not pushing you into something that you and your business could potentially regret. It's very, very easy to do that. It's very easy to get carried away with, maybe there's been a bit of a lull in your business for whatever reason, or you're still new. And when you're still new, the temptation to take on everything is very much at the forefront, to build your business as fast and as quickly as you can. If you've got that kind of mentality and that approach, then you're going to need help, because nobody knows everything. And it doesn't matter what you've been exposed to, you're going to find that somebody's going to expose you to something else that you've not seen before. So there's always an element of that. But like I said, big difference. Have a process for new and a process for revising. And if you do that, that's going to really help.
Good words. Good words. All right. Well, I'm gonna say that I will probably. I don't know if you can hear that, guys. I'm so sorry. There's a phone ringing. Anyway, my closing thought is that I would love to share a story of desperation with you one time. But in the meantime, I want you just all to get out there, really think about your business and think about how you can get those processes in place that are going to really make you more profitable. And if we can help in any way, give us a shout. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.